Firstly, welcome to our very first live webinar. Zooming to you live from my office and everyone else's home, right into your home. I just wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge everybody. And firstly, I'm going to hand over to Christina to just cover off a bit of housekeeping. And she'll run through the format of how this will work. And then she'll hand back to me and I'll introduce our really generous panelists as well. Over to you, Christina.
Cool. Thanks, Rob. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really great to see such a show of community during this crazy time. In terms of how this panel will run today, we're gonna run through a bunch of introductions from our amazing panelist team. Then we're gonna launch into a 40-minute discussion of some questions that we put together that we think are really relevant, that define, I guess, what everybody might be feeling right now. But we welcome any questions that you might want to, I guess, post to our panelists as well. All you need to do is hit the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And then we will, I guess, have a look at which questions are coming up a bit repeatedly and do our best to answer as many as we can. We have also set up a Slack channel where you are welcome to offer any kind of incentive, or if you want to connect with anybody that's participated in this chat. And we will also be sending through a wrap-up at the end of this webinar to summarize some of the points that we've been discussing, and also a wrap-up of the offers that our panelists have so kindly been willing to donate, I guess, to this cause. I'll hand over back to Rob, and then we can kick off the conversation.
Thank you so much, Christina. So firstly, I just want to give a little bit about, the purpose and why we're here. Frankly, we all know why we're stuck indoors right now, and we can all feel that pinch on our own businesses. Through all the madness and the craziness, I can imagine the last 48 hours to 72 hours have been some of the hardest for most of the people on this call in terms of their professional careers. Unprecedented is the nature of the time that we live in, and if you're in retail, you're feeling it more than most outside of tourism and hospitality right now. Just looking at all the store closures that have happened in the past 24 hours have been mind-blowing. I've spoken to some really devastated retailers myself. The emotional toll is really important to recognize. I think as a community, coming together is super important so that we can share our experiences, we can learn from one another, and we know that we're not standing alone in this crisis. So hopefully what Andrew from Convert and I hope you get out of today is really a sense of understanding that you are not alone. Secondly, an understanding as to how three businesses have looked to respond to the changing climate. It is quite a difficult and challenging time. There are shoots of growth. The main thing for all of us is to survive through this as business owners and flourish out the other side. A little bit about the Rocketeers of Retail itself. For those of you that don't know it, we've taken a little bit of a hiatus and kind of have thought to brought it back for this very purpose. We created the Rocketeers of Retail some 3 years ago as a platform for retailers to connect, share, and learn from one another. We've heard some great stories, and a few people that are speaking today have also spoken at previous panels or given their talks when they were at different businesses or at smaller stages of growth. So it's really great to have them back on board. A little bit about Shippit, I guess. So we're a shipping platform for retail. We help pure play businesses and omnichannel businesses get products to customers. Andrew, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Convert Digital.
Yeah, absolutely. Convert Digital, we're a e-commerce development agency. We're a Shopify Plus partner, a Magento partner, and a BigCommerce partner. So we've been around for 6 years now, a big cross-section of retailers we work with. Certainly hearing a lot of different conversations in the market at the moment, people that are really succeeding and people that are really struggling. So excited to hear what our panelists have to say today and answer and field a few questions that some of you may have.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. All right, so over to our panelists. So first of all, we are lucky enough to have three brilliant e-commerce leaders join us and talk about their stories. And firstly, I just want to introduce Tom. Tom Wellenkamp from Good Pair Days, mate. Welcome to the call.
Thanks, Rob.
you want to just give us a quick intro as to what Good Pear Days is all about?
Sure. We're personalized wine adventures delivered to your door. So what that is we're basically a wine retailer focused mainly on subscription. Well, unlike anyone else in the market, we offer a fully personalized service where we get to know your taste and learn about your ratings of bottles, and over time get better and better at selecting new bottles and sending and helping you discover new wines that you're going to like more and more over time, and really try and open up the world of wine and make it a lot easier and more approachable for wine lovers.
And I can attest to Tom's sommelier banjo pulling together some of the best collections. Thank you for my advent calendar last Christmas, mate. It was terrific.
No problem.
So we'll move over to Lani. Lani, welcome. Lani joins us from Nourished Life. Lani, do you want to give everyone a bit of an overview as to what Nourished Life is all about?
Yeah, Nourished Life is all about wellness. It's all about clean living, toxin-free. We have 6,500 products across every facet of your life. And the business, I guess in this time, really comes into its own of looking after people. And I think it's a great time for us to really do that.
Absolutely, Lani. And I'm sure you'll share a little bit more about what you're seeing in terms of response to your business shortly, but thank you for joining us. And Michael joins us from Broadhurst. Michael Broadhurst joins us from Cygnett. So Michael, thank you for joining us. Cygnett, do you want to tell us a little bit about the business?
Thanks, Rob. Hopefully one day I'm doing well enough that I have a company named after me, but Cygnett is an Australian company. 17 years old, born and bred in Melbourne. We focus on selling digital accessories, so whether that's powering or protecting your digital device. We do everything in-house, from design to product development and design. So, we have great retail relationships both here locally and abroad. So we're certainly feeling the effect of the current climate. And I think this is a great opportunity, this webinar, for everyone in the same situation to connect and share. And if anything, if we can help, relieve some anxiety today, that would be great. So thanks for the opportunity.
Terrific, Michael. Thank you very much for that and for giving up some time to help the community. So let's whip into it. So in terms of the format of today, panels are always awkward. So I'm going to try my best to keep it less awkward, or maybe make it more so. But we'll cover off a few key areas. So just more generally, how do we feel about things at the moment? Let's talk about change. Let's talk about, what the new normal looks like for you and your business. Then we'll move into understanding operational impacts, so what challenges businesses are facing from an operations perspective. Then moving on to how we've changed messaging on site to kind of respond and resonate more with the consumer mindset that currently exists in market. And flowing through from there, we'll then talk a little bit about customer support and obviously marketing as well. So why don't we kick off?
Just to chime in there, Rob, sorry, I think, as with all Rocketeers events, let's keep it raw. And if any people want to throw out Q&A questions, Christina and myself will be fielding those and addressing the panelists as we go.
100%. Thanks, Wadey. All right. So firstly, maybe I'll start with Michael. So Michael, I guess, obviously being a technology business, selling technology, what are the key changes that you've kind of observed lately in the last month or so, particularly as more extensive measures have been put in place, more people working from home, all that sort of stuff. What impact have you guys seen?
Well, I think the first response is communication. So paramount has been making sure that we're communicating regularly, and in this current crisis, we've been communicating on a daily basis. That's not just to the wider business, but to within our teams and then to our key customers. And that communication covers a variety of things. It covers, how we're dealing with that from a safety point of view, how we're dealing that from managing our business with their business, and then also what are the realities of how the business will change as certain things happen. So, for example, as governments announce stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, how that impacts us and then how that impacts each employee. So for me, communication has been the key. Then secondly, I think is, video conferencing. So, we're a business likes, spends a lot of money on building an office that's welcoming and encourages employees to come in and feel like they're a part of something. So there's a lot of money that gets invested in that. And then, so we're not really that well accustomed to video conferencing within internally. And so that's been probably a big change, is people having the option to work from home and then finding the time and being able to manage those video calls. Because as we know, when you're in office, what takes 30 seconds in a quick conversation where you shoot across a desk, that can take now 5 to 10 minutes to get across in terms of a group video call. So that's been a significant change. For us, personally, I think that the business has handled that quite well, but there's still a long way to go. I think the impact of COVID-19 is that a lot of businesses, once we get through this, a lot of businesses will reconsider their office strategy. And what I mean by that is that they'll start to look at how much they pay for rent per year and the cost of that. And then they may actually say, listen, during this crisis, we actually uncovered a success story. And that was that as a business, we can all work remotely, or a lot of us can work remotely and still get the job done. So I think there'll be a lot of consideration once we get through this. And that, I don't have a time length on that, but that as businesses, we'll reconsider how we work as a team, remotely.
Got it. Thanks, Michael. And I guess shifting gears somewhat into sort of the changing consumer demand, maybe Tom, this is a good question for you. I know I've certainly had a fair few bottles of wine every night. How have you seen demand for wine shift, and kind of what are you guys seeing from the market?
Yeah, it's actually a really funny feeling, because our business has been has grown a lot especially in the last 12 days. Whereas I know a lot of the majority of retailers are really struggling. Obviously, physical retailers is the hardest hit, but online retailers for things that I guess aren't consumable immediately are really struggling. But for us at the same time, we've seen like a 300% increase on new subscribers and one-off orders. So for us, it's probably a bit of a unique situation where we're really just, the last 2 weeks have been just trying to keep up, basically. We've seen a lot of, obviously, we've got our own theories for why it's picking up. Obviously, people are just ordering more wine to home. We generally don't think that probably people are necessarily drinking more. Maybe they are a little bit, but I think all the times you'd go out, like during the week, to a restaurant or a bar and have a few glasses of wine or a few beers, that's all now happening at home, and that's all up to the sort of online and bottle shops to provide those drinks rather than restaurants and bars. So it's a really funny feeling that we're doing well while it's such a horrible sort of crazy time. But it's been kind of fortunate for us in that we just put our head down and try and keep up and focus on that, and it's keeping us busy at the moment.
Absolutely, Tom. And look, mate, it's a community service. I think we need to get as much booze out there as possible, mate. So thank you for sharing that. And
well, yeah, like they have already sort of indicated that booze is an essential service, and that sounds funny, but if you want people to self-isolate, limiting their access to alcohol is going to actually probably make that a lot more difficult. Like, imagine you didn't have a few beers or a few wines in the fridge, you'd probably be more likely to break your isolation rules and head to a mate's place and have a drink, right? So I kind of see that side of it too. So, mate,
that harks back to a Simpsons episode: no beer and no something make Homer go something. Lani, right. I guess the antidote to all of that is a nourished life, right? So what have you guys seen? How's it impacted you guys?
So we've definitely seen an increase in, I'd say, our products per order and our average order value. So we're definitely seeing people bulk stock up. We're obviously quite fortunate in that we do sell hand sanitizer and other items that people are really looking for. We've definitely seen a lot of new customers as a result, which is always great. I guess good for now. Am I 100% sure it's going to last? Time will tell. At the moment, people are just stocking up for whatever reason. I mean, on a personal note, I'm not, but I know that there are a lot of people out there doing it. So yeah, we've definitely seen an increase in sales, in average order value, and we're just trying to keep up with the demand and keep our customers happy. We've definitely found that our customers are a bit nicer at the moment, a bit more understanding about a delay or any problems. But yeah, we're just trying to keep up and keep everyone stocked up.
I think that's a really interesting point, Lani. I mean, we've observed that at Shippit, where I think there's a little bit more patience and understanding, with the exception of Andrew, wanting his gym equipment today. The reason, ladies and gentlemen, he's swiftly joined the call is from a bad e-commerce experience. But if we really think about that, I guess operationally, how has that changed how you're responding to customers? I'm not sure if you guys have changed the way that customer support works. I've noticed some businesses have reduced the number of channels that they'll open up to customers and kind of over-communicated. Has anybody changed the way they operate with that?
We have. Well, I mean, some of it has been forced. We have had to stop using our phone just because of certain situation with working from home, but actually it's probably been better to funnel everyone into email or via social media. We've also going on live chat and just getting all our staff onto Zendesk, which we use to get back to customers as quickly as possible. I think at the moment we're just finding customers just want to make sure we've got their message and we've got their order and it's coming, and whether it's a little bit delayed, they're okay. They just want to hear back from us.
Absolutely. Tom?
Yeah, so we made a decision actually a long time ago just to do email support. We thought that it was a fairer way for us to actually get back to customers in the order of priority or when they contacted us. So I guess we were already well set up for that. But in saying that, we have been making sure we communicate with our customers a lot more about when they can expect their deliveries and what's happening, shipping times and things like that. So we probably haven't had any, I guess, usual niggly customer complaints, or that's probably the wrong word to use, but probably the website or things like that. It's all been about asking where the deliveries are and if they're on the way, and people just making sure that it's all on track and we're able to answer that fairly quickly and deliver. We've been really, I guess, happy with Australia Post and the rest of our courier partners, and of course Shippit organising all of them. But it seems like deliveries are still happening just as quickly as usual, and so customers we're actually delighting quite a few customers. So I'd say tickets have gone up, but yeah, they've been friendlier and they've been easier to deal with for the last while.
Just looking at that, as far as any panic buying and just addressing Jess's question in the chat here, how are you dealing with customer disappointment, or are you pulling products offline as they become out of stock? Are you doing notify when back in stock? What sort of strategies are the three of you guys? Maybe, I don't know, Michael, do you have, I mean, you guys have, I know dealing with you guys personally, that you have this feature enabled. What strategically is the best move? Do you think take products offline, or do you think allow products to subscribe?
So I think in two parts. The first part is that we've increased our resource from a support point of view. So we use Zendesk like Lani, but we also use Agora Pulse for social tracking. And by doing so, we've been able to reduce our response time. So as a general metric, we have a response time of around 24 hours, no later. We've reduced that down now to 2 hours. Because we want to be able to be as active and proactive online as possible. And then in regards to customer complaints and returns, we've taken the point of view that we just refund or replace. So if a customer comes to us and they've got an issue that can be rectified at a store level, our advice is don't go back to store in this current environment. Everyone's trying to self-isolate. There's no way we're going to ask you to do that. So we'll just send you a replacement, no questions asked. And so during this opportunity, it does allow us to offer best customer support in a time of need. And then what we have seen as a result of that, we've received a huge boost in our online positive reviews. So people coming back saying what great customer service you guys have, because we are easy to deal with and we're problem solving.
Right. Sorry, I was on mute there for a minute. And Michael, I guess in terms of supply from China, I presume you're quite reliant on Chinese supply chain. Is that fair?
We are. The good news from that point of view is that China's back up and running. So they've bounced back. So from a freight point of view, there's no real issue there. The only problem we have is that we have seen an increase in our business in particular areas. And we'd love to be able to air freight stock in. But it's near impossible to get air freight in. There's a bidding system going on, and then within that bidding system, if you are successful, it's probably still going to be quicker by sea freight, and that's purely because there's no passengers on those planes. So the cost is, if you want to get air freight, you have to pay for the same cost it would have been if they had passengers. So it's through the roof. So whilst China's in operation, it's still slow turnaround with trying to get on ships or on planes.
Yeah, I think in speaking to some retail partners of ours previously, those that did stock up well ahead of Chinese New Year break have kind of been able to get through the tough patch. Production seems to have somewhat resumed in China, but there is still a delayed supply chain impact. I think that as you just mentioned, Michael, what compounds this further is, commercial aircraft flights have kind of diminished quite a lot. So the cost of air freight has shot up significantly. We're also seeing that as a big barrier to business, even for retailers selling internationally. Yes, the flip side to all of that is the Australian dollar shifting. Has anybody had an increase in international buyers on your sites at all?
We've seen a slight increase. But just on that point, there is an opportunity for a lot of businesses. So if you do have supply, we've been looking at certain retail partners, particularly in telecommunications, where competitors have a stronger foothold, and we've seen their supply suffer. So it's opened up doors for us to be able to go and reach out to those retailers and say, listen, I know brand X is currently unable to supply, we can. And it does open up new sales opportunities for us.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that. Tom and Lani, I guess, seeing an increase in order volume. Obviously, you're one of the few fortunate retailers in Australia that can look to bring new staff in or even tap into casual work. Have you done that yet? Have you looked at employing people who may have found themselves out of a job in the last week? Or
yeah, so we actually run pretty much a whole warehouse with mums. And I guess as a result of that, we really had to think about that their kids were soon going to be home and needing them. So
Absolutely.
we've definitely tried to make it as easy as possible for them to work whenever and however they can. And we've had to, get new labour hire in to help with the volume, but also because of the changes in the warehouse system to try and protect our staff. We still need more people, but then we also need to stick to the social distancing rules. So it's a bit of a balancing act, and it's definitely me yelling at our warehouse manager, just get more people in, what's wrong? And him saying, I can't push it anymore, they need X amount of space around them. Yeah. So there's a balancing act, but we are definitely trying to give as many people work and jobs, and also in customer service. We do a lot of remote customer service.
Terrific. Yeah. And Tom, any perspective to share there?
Yeah, it's similar to us. We split our warehouse team into three, but mainly to separate the higher knowledge workers for the warehouse. So like people that knew all the systems, can drive a forklift, and can make sure the warehouse keeps operating. So all those people have been split into three, and two of those teams are at home at any one time. And we did split our warehouse workers as well, but because demand picked up, we've put basically all our packers into the A team, and we've also had to go out and hire more people. So in the worst case scenario, if that one of those teams does get the virus, and we have to pull that team and get another team in the warehouse to thorough cleaning everything, then we will hopefully be able to get a lot of casuals in quickly to support the B and C teams if that occurs. And we've already found that, fortunately, Banjo, one of my co-founders, is big in the hospitality industry, so he just did a post on his own personal Instagram for any hospo workers that need to pick up some shifts, and he got like a crazy response straight away. So So hopefully, yeah, we're giving a bit of work to some of these people that need it over the next couple of months.
Just want to talk to, Jamie's just raised a question about some of the merchants that are struggling, and just want to shed some light on some experience that we're having with a lot of our retailers, and it's looking at reallocating resource into other areas of the business. So we've seen a massive shift into, okay, well, if people have to work from home and they can't fulfill their duties, or they can't work within a store environment, or stores are quiet, looking at, okay, well, what can we do with customer service? What can we do with online live chat, and starting to allocate areas that are thriving within the business. Although things like wholesale might be down, certainly e-commerce for some of even our fashion merchants is doing all right. But I don't know if anyone has any insight on that.
I've definitely got a lot of friends in this space that are in businesses that are not doing well. And I think a lot of the conversations I've been having, and I very much appreciate, I'm in a very fortunate position for now, but a lot of the conversations are about how they can pivot their business or their offering. So in fashion, talking, not trying to sell dresses and workwear, but trying to sell casual loungewear, trying to find ways to make people buy into your brand, maybe in a less conventional way. And I guess everyone is just trying to cut costs left, right, and centre, and having a workforce that I guess is enabling that and being appreciative to businesses that are trying to keep staff on and not getting rid of their staff. I think that's been a really big challenge I've seen around, and I think emotionally it's taking a toll on everyone.
Absolutely. I think, Lani, you raised a good point, and we've had a lot of discussions with retailers in the last couple of weeks, which have had to make the hardest decisions in their careers as well. I think, I was just on the phone to somebody who said the first rule of business is to try and stay in business. Whatever that takes and whatever that means to each of you on the call, I think is really important to kind of just think through. It ultimately comes down to cash flow, and where you don't have free cash flow and the ability to kind of survive through that. What I've seen is some businesses have been putting their whole operation into hibernation. So they may temporarily take their sales offline to kind of weather the storm. Others are pivoting into different categories. We've seen some distilleries start to pivot into hand sanitizer, and I think even one of my favorite brands is St. Ali Coffee Roasters, and I've just been following their story. And if you haven't followed their story, I suggest you jump on Instagram and start following St. Ali. A cafe down in Melbourne, obviously that's created a bit of a movement, and they've got a great e-commerce offering. But for them, the shutdown in hospitality meant that they pivoted into a general store. So they're still buying the same supplies they used to use in the kitchen. Now they're making takeaway meals. They're also starting to sell eggs and bread and milk to the local community. So we're seeing a very big pivot into local becoming more important. And then also they started bringing in hand sanitizer as well to help with the shortage that was being seen around the neighborhood as well. So I think just being open and responsive and using that entrepreneurial spirit that you all have, knowing that this is a storm that will eventually pass. We need to keep that vision to the future and think about how we can potentially change things up a little bit through this period. There are categories that will be quite resilient. That's the nature of it. It's quite unfortunate if you're in categories that rely on heavy social interaction. Talking to a very good friend of mine who runs a party supplies business, they've been impacted dramatically with an over 80% decline in sales, right? So when that happens to your business, you've got no choice but to make some hard decisions. I think it's trying to look for alternative segments that you can still market to survive. Let's change gears a little bit. I want to kind of understand, how, I guess, there was a bit of mention around warehousing, close proximity, social distancing, people getting viruses. God, that's like one of the scariest things about this whole piece, right? So not only will our staff be exposed to this, what's the current feeling? I know some of us are still able to work in offices. Some of us are being forced to work from home. It really is a mixed bag. I guess when it comes to warehousing, maybe Tom, what's your kind of preventative measures, or what controls are you putting in place to kind of prevent a potential outbreak at Good Pair Days warehouse?
Yeah. So apart from splitting the teams, just from a business continuity perspective, for the business, all our pick packers following the social distancing rules, so that they're not getting within, even 3 meters of each other really. At the start of every shift and at the end of every shift, we're wiping down all stations. We're requiring all warehouse workers to wash their hands thoroughly when they get there. So we started putting that in a couple of weeks ago when we saw it all, I guess, unfolding. We try to. I mean, we had lots of chats around employees to make sure that we really drilled this through in the early days, and they've been following it for quite a while now. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all we can do at this stage. We contemplated face masks, but from everything I've read, it's like you're hearing lots of different things from different experts about how actually they're counterproductive unless you're on the front line as a health worker, and it actually makes their job pick packing quite a bit more difficult, not being able to breathe properly. So for the time being, we haven't implemented that, but still something I'm following closely.
Got it. Does anybody else have anything that they may be doing in their warehouses a bit differently? Michael, maybe?
Yeah. We have, like Tom, we've isolated the warehouse. The office and the warehouse are one building, and we've isolated the 2 departments. We've got 2 separate shifts now. There's a clean that gets done before the first shift, and then after the first shift, or the second shift starts. So we're cleaning around the clock. Obviously, we've got hand sanitizer everywhere. But the other addition that we've also introduced is that we've got the temperature guns. So everyone at the warehouse at the start of the shift, at the end of the shift, and also in the office as well, gets their temperature measured from the temperature gun. So it feels like we've got like a speed cop around every corner in the office. But as a whole, it just also helps with staff feeling confident that no one's coming in and maybe unaware or hiding a temperature. And it just gives that peace of mind.
Got it. Sorry, Lani, I cut you off before. Thank you for sharing that, Michael.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. We've also got temperature guns. And the other thing we're doing is making sure that it's all one touch. So not 2 people don't touch the same order, that's
right.
Big.
Wow, that's a big process change, hey?
Massive process change. They're doing really well, and we're actually getting heaps out. But that has been the biggest shift to the way we process orders at the moment.
Got it. And I think, from a pick and pack perspective, if you're big enough or fortunate enough to do sort of pick by wave, not by order, that would be quite an impact to your business, right? In terms of your efficiencies in the warehouse, or cost to pick per order has gone up, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so we do wave picking, and our cost per pick, yes, has gone up, but to keep our staff safe and to keep us in business, it's worth it. Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a really intricate thing that perhaps not a lot of businesses are thinking about. I think, ultimately safety is the responsibility of all of us during this time, and we're only as healthy as the least healthiest person around us, right? So I think that's a really good piece of advice, Lani, to kind of offer up. Thank you for that. So I guess, one of the other questions I wanted to really ask around was obviously marketing, right? What do you do? There's a looming recession. We're going through a global pandemic. People are freaking out. You're looking at bricks and mortar retailers losing their physical presence, which is a big marketing drive for them. People aren't driving around. Billboards aren't being used. Everyone's on their devices. Some commentators are saying cost of acquisition or cost per impression is going to go down. Some are saying it's going to go up. What are you guys seeing at the moment? Who wants to talk about what they're seeing from a marketing perspective? Anyone?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Good one, Michael. Go for it.
So there's a really great quote that I read from a guy called Michael Bobak, and it says, "All progress takes place outside the comfort zone." And I thought it was really interesting because right now, as marketers, we're all out of our comfort zone. And by being out of our comfort zone, I found that as a marketing team here at Cygnett, we've actually made more progress than we probably would have had this COVID-19 not come about. It's forced us to be a lot more creative in the way in which we market the brand. So a good example, which I put on the chat room before, was we have a selfie stick, and it sells okay, but what we're able to do is look at the opportunity. So more people working from home, everyone doing video conferencing. So it went from being a selfie stick to now being a video conferencing accessory. And we've put together a pitch, and we ran that campaign. We've seen a 70% uplift in the sales of that selfie stick.
That's amazing, Michael.
And then also, as of the last 24 hours, we've had a major national office retailer take a whole lot of stock from us. We've also had another big CE retailer not only buy stock, but then feature it in an upcoming catalogue, all because we're able to sit outside the square. Now, tomorrow, we're launching a new version of that campaign, which is going to be, this is what it now looks like to have drinks with the girls. So it'll be the selfie stick with one of your girlfriends on there. And then it'll be, this is drinks with the lads. And it'll be the selfie stick with the beer in the foreground. So, you know, once again, we're thinking outside the square, finding products that necessarily don't get the normal traction, and using this as an opportunity. Then secondly, it's great to have a campaign, but you need to spend. So for us, it's about working on a Google advertising. So any digital marketer needs to have a tool like SEMrush or something equivalent. You need to see what consumer behavior is online, what are the search terms they're using. So for us, we're looking at home office, working from home, and then it's about, okay, what's the cost per click? It's not about, you know, are we prepared to spend? It's about what is the return on investment? You can't be shy. Obviously, some businesses are very sensitive. Marketing is usually the one area which they downturn. But I'm fortunate at Cygnett that we have always valued marketing, and sometimes you've got to spend money to make money. So we're looking at all avenues from social remarketing, ad boosts, campaigns, and Google advertising, particularly Google Shopping. By having that creative campaign, you can then justify the spend. And as I said, that selfie stick is one of many examples in where we're seeing an uplift driven by creative marketing.
Michael, that's a terrific example. I think the analogy, or what sort of brought to mind when you talked about selfie stick being repurposed, trying to get my kids to eat Vegemite toast, I had to call them Vegemite Crispies, and all of a sudden they love those Crispies and hated the toast. But I think like it's a really interesting thing to sort of pivot, because what we're seeing is generally any products which are kind of serving, or any brands which are serving the social industry, selfie sticks is one of them. Repurposing them is such a great idea. So you've kind of gone the other way, Michael, and you're kind of doubling down on kind of investment and maintaining or even increasing marketing spend. Is anyone else doing the same or pulling back on spend? Lani?
We haven't really changed what we're spending. I think it's more we're changing our messaging on those channels. We've definitely seen that on social, a lot of the big brands have pulled back, making it a lot better for us to reach more people. So thanks to big brands. But for us, it's more about the messaging that we're going for. It's a lot less promotional, salesy type messaging. It's much more about how you can look after yourself, pushing product in a very different way. A lot of blog content, and just getting people to trust us, because that's the whole point of Nourished Life, and that's the whole premise. And I think we've found our engagement has really increased by changing our messaging, and we did that very quickly and very swiftly, because we just didn't feel right running any of the promotions we had planned, and we just canned them all and started again. Got
it. Tom?
Yeah, we got the two sides of our marketing. One, the performance marketing, which is predominantly all our spend, and then the other side, just the content and the organic social. Basically, we pulled a lot of our resources from actually working on the product in terms of the digital experience, and the app and things like that, and put them all towards content and engaging our community. So what we launched last week, and then preluded to about a week before that, was we launched our Facebook group for the first time. That was in the cards for a while, but we sped that up and launched it as quickly as we could to get our members somewhere where they can communicate amongst each other a lot more freely and a lot more easily. We relaunched our newsletter, which had kind of been on a bit ad hoc, and we put on a bit of ice for a while, kind of similar to Rocketeers. But we thought now's a good time to get content out there that people can engage with and take their mind off the world for a little while, and then I guess one of the things that we've done, which is very similar to you as well, is we launched our Wining from Home live tastings, both via Zoom for our members and on Instagram Live for a more sort of one-directional live tasting, and they've been really well received. Even like Instagram curated picked it up and is going to run with it and sort of show it in their highlighted selection of things that companies can do to sort of I guess to provide a bit of a lightheartedness to their members and customers over the time. We made the decision that we weren't really going to focus on the virus in a lot of our communications. We weren't going to hide from it. We're just going to acknowledge that everyone's going through it. We're not the experts. We're doing everything we can to keep our company and our members safe. But at the same time, we've probably got a better chance to add a bit of levity and fun into our members' lives rather than keep focusing back on what everyone's already reading in the media. So that's what we did from a sort of organic and social perspective. And then Facebook ecosystems are still our predominant channel and always has been. And we've found that I guess the CPM costs have gone way down and customer acquisition costs have gone down. We haven't really significantly increased our budget. We have a little bit when it's scaling really easily, but we're seeing that it's going down for at least for wine. I think there's two things: more people are interested in buying wine and sending it home, and I think there's also a bit more inventory online for Facebook because a lot more people are on Facebook and Instagram and scrolling, so there's a bit more ad space for them to sell.
Smart.
Yeah, and then the other thing we did with our audiences is just we were probably one of the biggest wine advertisers on social media for a while, and so we had a great lookalike audience that we can leverage. And so I think all the wine companies, and I saw it, like people have never advertised on Facebook before, we started seeing ads for wine companies on Facebook. So we sort of turned down the wine interest for a bit more technical perspective and turned up our lookalike audiences, which we know our competitors couldn't compete on as easily, if that helps anyone from a more technical perspective.
I think that's brilliant. And, just in order to kind of be mindful of time, like I don't want to disrupt that discussion, but I think this is a great conversation. And there are so many questions starting to come through from attendees around, do we double down on marketing? How do we measure what we're doing? All that sort of stuff. What we'll do is we'll create a channel. I think we've already got a channel on the Slack group. So if you're not part of the Slack group, Christina thankfully dropped a link into the chat channel on the webinar. Please join it.
I'll drop it in there again.
Please join it, because a lot of this conversation can be had there. You can ask a lot more pointed questions of our experts here if they're willing to spend a bit more time. But thank you for sharing that. Are you also, is anybody starting to look at, different channels or marketplaces right now, or kind of just still sticking to the knitting and kind of just doubling down on kind of what you're focused on?
We're definitely sticking to what we know best at the moment. And from a marketplace perspective, it's so hard to get stock right now. We're definitely not going to be pushing it into anywhere but our own channels.
Got it.
We're actually looking at new product opportunities. So as a portable power company, we play a role in the home office. But there are a lot of other opportunities that retailers are reaching out to us to see if we can find a solution for. So we are looking at potentially smaller opportunities where we can bolster our range and to field or to play in areas that we don't traditionally play in. The other thing I'd say is, really for us, it's about identifying where the revenue trends in this current situation. And my only other advice would be, don't be afraid to connect and collaborate with other brands. So if you've got a story that you can tell and it feeds into a revenue trend, you may not, as a brand, have the full solution. And sometimes it's about power and numbers. So if you can connect with a brand where there's great synergy in helping tell that story, that can also elevate your marketing presence out there.
Got it.
I think I'll just elaborate, and nice little segue there, I guess, is like outside of marketing channels, one thing, you know, we're certainly hearing it and talking to our merchants about is just looking at the overall tech stack. And if retailers have an opportunity to cut costs due to obviously a decrease in revenue, or if they're looking to capitalize on the opportunity, are any of you looking at your tech stack and going, okay, well, you know, what things can I be doing on site to help capitalize? I'll go a little bit deeper there potentially. Yeah, some examples we're looking at is you know, some of our partners in the review space, like reviews.io, are looking at doing free onboarding and free trials and that sort of stuff, and going, okay, well, if we are doing well at the moment, how can we enable some of these tech opportunities, or at the same time, can we look to decrease costs? Lani?
I'd say we obviously have a lot of brands on board that we can partner with. The only one that really comes to mind is we work with Rachel Finch, who's an influencer, and we are talking about how we can help them get more people onto their online program. Obviously, everyone is worried about wellness, being at home, and so we think that's a really good way for us to help our audience and help them get some awareness at the moment what they're offering. But besides that, we haven't really gone back to our tech stack at all. We're quite happy with where we are. We've done a lot of work to get to where we are today.
Yeah, I looked at my tech stack more from a, you know, if we have to shut down, what can we what is really a fixed cost and what can we actually do without. So
we got there. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. No, that's all right. Like for instance, our email client, or I guess CMS system, we thought, okay, you know, if we really need to cut costs, how do we export that data, significantly reduce the size of our list to just our members for now, and then maybe upload it again, you know, because then it's all based on how many members you haven't uploaded again in the future. But that was the main one we saw that we could potentially cut, you know, like things like Zendesk could get really expensive with the number of agents. So we would probably just, I don't know, we'll see, you know, we could just all share the one agent login if we really had to, or something like that. I'm probably not allowed to do that, but that's the kind of thing we were thinking through, like if we really needed to cut all our software tech stack costs. I haven't really put my mind to what is now out there for as great deals that we can actually leverage, but that's a great idea, Andrew. Maybe we should see what we can start getting great bargains on, I guess.
Look, I think you know, just I can't believe the time. We'll need to move to some Q&A. But look, as I kind of reflect on it, the current situation, you know, if you've watched the news lately, over the next 6 weeks, we'll start to see a real impact in terms of the consumer confidence and the unemployment rate starting to hit discretionary spend. So whilst we're seeing this initial kick up in some industries through COVID and everything that's done to the world, I think it's really important that we keep in mind, you know, there is uncertainty looming. And I think for everybody, it is wise to start looking at where costs sit within the business, what's making you money, what's not making you money, etc., and start to reevaluate. I know we certainly are, and I know many of the businesses we've spoken to are as well. So just keep an eye on that, everybody, and I think you know, we'll kind of look to weather the storm. There's some great questions that have come through. Whose standards should we focus on? Any ones in particular, or just go as we see? Wadey, I'll probably put that one over to you, mate.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, it's a tough question to answer, but certainly looking at what's happening in New Zealand with full lockdown, including warehouses, stores, other than essential services. Does anyone have any plans there as far as what that might look like? It's a tough question to answer, especially maybe Tom, you might be the best one, given your position with the business and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of what Rob mentioned before in terms of hibernation. I think what we would have to do is work really closely with our employees and explain the situation to them and say, look, we want to get through this. But if we can't sell anything, and we have to keep paying wages, we can cut all the other fixed costs as much as possible. We can get it really low. I think I think the warehouse rent would be the highest one we wouldn't be able to cost. But then even that sounds like that's up to debate after Premier Solomon Lou was saying in the last couple of days he's just not going to pay Westfield or anyone for it.
Goes to the bottom of the page.
Yeah, exactly. But so maybe even that becomes negotiable. So really it's about staff, and what it would have to do is sort of explain that we're going to go into hibernation, and if we don't survive, then in 2 or 3 months there might not be a business there. If we can survive and go into hibernation for that period of time, then we can come out of the other end and hopefully pick up where we left off. So that's obviously the apart from people actually being directly impacted, that's the worst case scenario for I think planning for that. And and we'll just have to play it as it comes. But I think staff becomes the biggest consideration, because then you have to think about their lives and how each of them is going to be personally impacted, and it's a lot of one-on-one conversations I think will have to take place to get through that.
Anyone else want to chime in there?
I feel really depressed thinking about that. I almost think I've just cut it from my mind that it's a possibility. And now I'm just sitting here thinking, oh my God, I feel overwhelmed, and I'm sure a lot of people would feel similar. But yeah, as Tom said, it's most important to look after our staff. So thinking about what we can pull back on, that's really got me thinking. And now I'm going to have to spend the afternoon writing all that out and working out what we would do.
Perfect. I think another question that's come in is just looking at discretionary spending and those who are in markets that aren't necessarily wellness, health, beauty, FMCG, that are doing really well. Should they look to market now? Should they look to wait for things to improve? You look at consumer confidence at the moment; it's still relatively high comparatively to what maybe people think it should be. So, what do you guys think? Should people be doubling down and starting to market now, or should people be holding tight?
I think Nadia from Camilla and Mark put a really good article in the Slack group.
That's brilliant. It's a really good read.
Because I don't think any of us know the answer, but that one seemed to have some good points.
Want to elaborate?
So mainly, my takeout from it was that the brands that are going to invest now will come away better than those that don't. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the cash, you don't have the cash. So it's all got to be balanced with what's possible. But I definitely don't think just cutting everything and not building any sort of consumer confidence in your brand at this time, I don't think that's the best option if you have any way to still make it work.
I think talking about cash is a good point, and none of us in the room are accountants, but certainly a lot of us either run or work within small to medium-sized businesses. And I think what we'll share post this discussion is some articles from certainly my financial advisors as a business, and I'm looking at City of Melbourne at the moment have $5,000 investment grants from an activity. There's things like the asset write-off that some of our merchants are considering for starting new projects and that sort of stuff. So we'll try to share that information as much as possible. Looking through the questions, I think we're pretty well getting to the end of them. Is there anything anyone else wants to jump on the Q&A or?
I might just add to that last question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a steady rule that can be applied to every brand or business out there in terms of whether they should gear up their spend. But what I think you need to do is you need to understand where your business is at. What are the current opportunities? Now, short term, those opportunities may not equate to e-com sales or retail sales, but they may contribute to your brand building. So, for example, there was someone there talking about from a homewares brand and whether they should ramp up their advertising. There may not be a sudden surge for people wanting to buy homewares, but people are stuck at home. So build some marketing and brand stories around, you're stuck at home, why not renovate your home? Why not do a clean out? Why not get ready to, refresh your look and feel of your home? Now, some people then might tailor that off and then go buy something from you, but still you're staying relevant in the current environment. And I think that's critical. It's not all about the sales. It's about staying relevant. So don't pull away completely just because it's not an instant dollar to be made.
I think there's a brilliant Harvard Business Review article on how to market in a downturn as well. I think a lot of the advice that Michael's given is super critical. It's about pivoting the message of your product to suit the current environment. If you're in jewelry, it's certainly not about going out with friends. It's all about the intimate moments, because those intimate moments should still exist through all of this uncertainty as well.
Perfect.
Cool.
I think while we're talking about relevancy and offers, I think some of our panelists have some offers to be talking about for those attending the webinar. What do you got for us, Michael?
So for everyone that's taken the time to listen to my boring feedback, we're happy to give everyone 30% off from the Cygnett web store. So if, like many of us, you're working from home and you need a longer cable to keep your laptop charged, or you want a power bank or even a wireless charger, if you're like me and you have young kids and the only time you can get conference calls is jumping in the car and driving around the block, then we have car mounts and holders, so 30% across the site.
Those power banks are awesome. Just don't take them to Vietnam. I think you're taking a bomb on the plane.
They are safe for travel and carry on. They are safe for carry on, but I've heard some interesting stories like that.
Absolutely. What about Lani?
Yes, we want everyone to stock up. So we've got 15% off all full priced items. The code is Rocket Retail, which is the same code that Cygnett are using, I'm pretty sure.
That's correct, and thank you for reminding me.
And we've got a free bottle for any attendees as well.
Free bottle.
Yeah.
That is generous.
In any monthly order, so you get one out of 3 for free. So you don't have to pay for 2 out of your first box of 3. But I did the code Shippit, but I'll change it to I'll make another one for Rocket Retail as well.
Awesome.
Right now.
Thank you very much, Tom, Lani, and Michael. It's very generous. We're going to drop those offers into the offer channel on the Slack workspace, so I can't recommend enough joining that. Andrew, Convert Digital, running something as well.
Yeah, myself and Adam Littlechild, our account director and my business partner, we're doing 30-minute AMA, just free consulting for all of our existing merchants, and as well as anyone who wants to have a chat. Nothing serious, just certainly talk through and help where we can.
Awesome. Andrew, can I just add something to that about Convert?
Yeah.
So when it comes to building a successful online business, we tend to immediately focus on Google spend, SEO, PPC, and even PR, etc. But ultimately, the engine of a good online business is your web platform and your web provider. And it's not until you go through times like this where your digital platforms are put under stress potentially that you find out where your weak spots are. And I just wanted to recommend Convert as a web partner. They've been excellent for us in terms of developing our site and touching base and offering advice on how we can manage our business through this period. So thank you very much to Convert.
Thanks, Michael. You're making me blush, mate.
Absolutely.
Kind word.
And guys, just from a Shippit point of view, we really see a need to help small business owners really get online if they weren't online already, and also help those that are in affected industries as well. So, what we're offering is free for life subscriptions for essential businesses. That includes education and some essential categories like medical, cafe, pub, bottle shops, butchers, greengrocers, or the newly unemployed who are looking to pivot and create something they've always wanted to create. We'll even set up a Shopify website. We'll help you through the journey. So please reach out to us. I've dropped the offer in the offers channel on the Slack workspace for the Rocketeers. All right. Well, I think we're out of time. Histrina, do you want to do a bit of a wrap?
Sure thing. Guys, this has been such an informative, wonderful session, and it was great to see so much participation in the chat channel. We will be running a wrap-up of the conversation, including a recording of this session, which will be sent to all of the attendees. I noticed a few of you were having trouble joining the Slack channel, so I will reiterate the correct channels to join within this wrap-up. And I'll do my best to add everybody who's left their email within the chat also. So feel free to submit more questions to us directly via Slack, and we look forward to continuing this conversation there. Thank you again.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Thank you very much for joining us, guys, and good luck out there. Hey, it's hard. Yeah, keep in touch. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.